it really feels like the world's tectonic plates are shifting and countries are realigning. Things are just moving, and it's not clear where some things will settle. Some things are clear, but others not yet. Today, the United Arab Emirates has announced that it is leaving OPEC, the oil cartel, made up of 12 countries. And who are these 12 countries? They're major oil-producing nations, so Algeria, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates and Venezuela. 30% of the oil output of the world comes from OPEC countries, but OPEC also sets quotas per country. The UAE has decided that it has its nose so bent out of shape and its economic crunch probably is so severe that it does not want to be bound by quotas. So it wants to be able to pump as much oil as it wants, as it needs. And also, because Saudi Arabia is the largest oil producer, probably has an outsized voice in OPEC. UAE is in a complete acrimony and tension with Saudi Arabia right now. So this is probably also an anti-Saudi Arabia move, and the UAE probably wants to match the output of Saudi Arabia. Don't know who's aligned with UAE, but what seems to be coming to the fore is that Israel and the UAE are in complete sync right now. Israel, with its expansionist, supremacist ideology, is not going to do the right thing by the UAE. And I'm afraid this alignment and this coalition, collaboration, whatever, is not going to be very favorable to the UAE for very long. But okay, UAE is running out of money to finance something else, the genocide in the Sudan. It probably pays a lot of money to the RSF to continue its plundering and pillaging and extraction of gold and other resources and shipping it off to the UAE while they rape, torture, plunder, displace millions of people. So anyway, two genocidal countries are coming together in some weird coalition. And who knows, maybe the UAE plans to divert its oil to Israeli ports. We don't know. But there's definitely an alignment there. And this move is to poke the eye of Saudi Arabia, to not sit at the table anymore with Iran, which is a part of OPEC, and to be able to earn as much revenue as they wish without being subject to any quotas. So I think this is where things stand today. Let us see what happens. And remember, OPEC also coordinates market prices, supply, demand, and the price of oil. So the UAE is breaking away from all of this, so let us see where they land. Russia is giving full-throated support to Iran, and the foreign minister of Russia says that Iran has a complete right to control the Strait of Hormuz. So there is that. Putin is Trump's best friend, so not quite sure how this plays out in Washington. What we're hearing is that Trump doesn't like the proposal from Iran, and he's not going to accept it. Somebody or some bodies are in his ear saying the blockade is working. Richard Haas, who's supposed to be the muckety muck of the foreign policy establishment and used to be the head of the Council on Foreign Relations, says that it was his idea, that he thought a blockade would be a great thing to do, and now he's not so sure. So he's like let's do a negotiated settlement. It's too painful. It's blah, blah, blah. But yes, he every time says that he supported the blockade. And what has the blockade brought us? Well, US gasoline prices are ticking higher, according to the New York Times. US gasoline prices rose on Tuesday, jumping to a national average of $4.18 a gallon, 40% higher since the war began. Diesel is at $5.46 a gallon, up 45%. Meanwhile, BP says that its earnings are $3 billion for the first quarter. Jaw-dropping amounts of money are being raked in by the oil companies. Do they have any responsibility to help struggling people? We don't know, and we're pretty sure that they are not going to take on that responsibility. Let us hear what the director of Brookings Institute has to say about the situation in a conversation with Ezra Klein. Here we go. Her name is Suzanne Maloney, Director of Foreign Policy for the Brookings Institute, and she makes some very important points here.
The Iranians effectively believe that they have the upper hand at this point in time, and so they have indicated that they don't really see themselves as prepared to negotiate directly with Washington, nor are they particularly inclined to compromise with the United States.
Why do they believe they have the upper hand?
They can afford to wait. They have already suffered, as you know, tremendous losses to the leadership. This has had a terrible impact on Iranian cities across the country. But in fact, in effect, they're able to, they have the advantage of time. We've never had a prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz. We've never had this length of disruption in terms of oil exports and, as you note, other petrochemicals and commodities that are key to the global economy. This is something that is completely unprecedented. And in effect, markets haven't fully priced in the potential impact at this point in time. Americans are still effectively paying the price at the gas pump that is determined by production in the United States and by supplies on hand. But as the disruption is priced in, we will be seeing not just $4 and $5 and $6 prices for gasoline at the pump, but much, much higher.
My understanding is that we are entering this period where the closure of the strait is going to start really biting the global flow of energy and commodities. That we've been in a period where tankers that had already gone through were still arriving at ports around the world, but we're moving into something where you're going to cease having the landings in Asia of energy tankers that have been needed. In Europe, fertilizer is about to get crunched. That right now we've been really worrying about futures, and people are pricing things higher out of fear of the future, but we're about to hit the point where these shortages become material in the present. And for the Iranians, that they see their leverage increasing very, very rapidly in the coming weeks. Is that accurate? How you complicate that? Talk to me a bit about that question of the coming timing.
I think that's exactly right. And it will play out, as you note, in all sectors of the economy, particularly food and commodity prices. Chips are going to be impacted by the limits in supply of helium, and so that will have an impact on all the tech that we buy. Everything from our televisions to our cars could be impacted as a result of this. So, Prime Minister Modi in India compared this to effectively COVID and the pandemic and the impact on global supply chains. I think that is a very apt comparison, particularly if this extends over the course of another month or so. And that is going to be something that the United States is going to hear from all of its partners and allies when it's engaged in diplomacy, that they are looking to see an end to this war too. And so for the Iranians, they're prepared. This is an existential crisis. They're prepared to wait this out as long as they can. And I think that's the real question now. Who blinks first?
This is how sensible analysts are looking at this situation. Meanwhile, whoever is in the ear of Donald Trump telling him this blockade is working is absolutely lying and doing more damage to Americans than anybody else at this point. And my guess is there are people like Lindsey Graham who's actually in his ear telling him that. And that is just so damaging because Lindsey Graham is not speaking for America at this point. If this is the kind of pain point that Americans are going to face, this is just awful. I think it's important to look at why the Iranians have gone to Russia. Russia has veto power in the UN Security Council, and my thinking is that Russia intends to exercise that veto power as a way to help Iran gain more leverage against the US and against its European allies. And as we heard yesterday, Britain certainly is playing the role of the poodle ally.